Hi guys, and welcome back to I Speak English. My name is Hayley, and today we're going to be taking a look at how you can pass your Cambridge C1 exam this year. So this is the first video of 2026, so Happy New Year. Hope you've enjoyed the holidays if you celebrate, and if your New Year's resolution is to pass your Cambridge C1 exam, this video is going to help you. So we're going to be taking a look at the biggest mistakes that students make when they're preparing. We're going to take a look at different parts of the exam, the worst, most difficult parts, and how to get around them. We're going to be taking a look at how to improve your reading and your writing and your vocabulary as well. So if you are dying to pass your Cambridge C1 exam in 2026, stay here with me and we're going to take a look at that. But before we do, make sure you are subscribed to the channel and you give this video a like. It just helps it to reach more people so that they can prepare for their exam as well. So hit the subscribe button there and we're going to get started. So if you're watching this video, you're probably asking yourself, how can I pass my Cambridge C1? I've been stuck for a while at this level. I feel like I'm not improving. Don't worry, I've helped hundreds of students pass their C1 exam, including students who have failed the exam multiple times before they've come to me. And today I'm going to be honest with you, passing the C1 is not about tricks or luck or even fancy vocabulary. It's about the way that you prepare. And everything I'm going to tell you today comes directly from my students' results, not theory. This is practiced, it's proven, and you can pass the exam if you follow these tips. So we're going to start by looking at some really common mistakes I see that stop people from making progress towards their C1 goal. So our biggest mistake that I see is not building enough vocabulary. I see this time and time again. The C1 exam, you need a lot of synonyms, you need paraphrases, and you need to be able to use vocabulary in a flexible way and in a fluent way. Okay? If you don't have enough vocabulary, you're not going to have enough fluency and flexibility. And this you need to show in all different parts of the exam. It's going to affect your use of English. It's going to affect your writing because you'll be repeating yourself constantly. Your reading, if you can't understand particular words, especially, for example, in like reading part 6, where you need to find similar opinions. If you have similar vocabulary, but you don't actually know the synonyms, then you're not going to be able to answer the question. So really important for reading and speaking as well. You don't want to repeat yourself while you're speaking. You need to use a range of vocabulary while you're speaking. And examiners expect to hear this from. So not building enough vocab is a massive one. And this is like something that takes a lot of time that you have to do slowly over quite a long period of time. It's not something that you can learn really quick. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, well, how do I build vocabulary then? There's lots of different ways. Reading is a really good one. You don't particularly have to read exam stuff. Just read anything, a novel, news articles, anything that you're interested in, blog posts. Just read daily in English, and it's a really easy way to pick up vocabulary. You can see it in context. And often the vocabulary might be repeated within the same page or whatever you're reading. So definitely read, note down in new vocabulary, and then try to use it in a productive way by writing or using it in speaking. That's a really good way. If you have a kind of more systematic approach to learning vocabulary, I do have some flashcards for you. If you click the link in the description, you can download them there. There's about 250 words, C1 level words. They're kind of slightly more formal, slightly more academic synonyms of regular words that you would use. It's completely free on Quizlet. If you download the app Quizlet, you don't need to pay for it. You just need to set up an account. And this is going to be really useful for your writing and your speaking, also use of English as well. So if you want some flashcards, click the link below and you can download them. We're going to head on to mistake number 2. Okay, this is something, again, I see quite often. People reading instead of listening in their listening exam. So I see this a lot, particularly with listening part 4, where you have a lot of different options. You've got about 16 different options, and often people end up reading all those options rather than actually listening to the audio. I've said this in a few lectures before. I think I do have a listening video. I'll put that up there for part 4, and a strategy for you to use if you are struggling with it. But yes, the key is to listen, not to read. So don't spend time reading those options, kind of ignore them at first, and just actively listen to the answer to the question. Focus on the question more than the options, listen, and then make notes. So that's going to help you a lot more than just reading the options, because often when you have a lot of options as well, you start panicking and you're not even really reading the options. You're just scanning them and trying to choose anything that might match. And also the options are going to influence your decision because you're going to be listening for something specific in the options rather than actually listening to the answer to the question. Okay. So again, kind of ignore the options, just listen actively the first time, write notes, and then you can try and match your notes to one of the answers. Okay. All right, on to mistake number 3. This is a massive one that I see all the time with writing. I feel like I've said this to every single student that I've had. Writing without a plan. This is the biggest mistake you can make in your writing exam. You have to have a plan. It's very easy for me or an examiner or whoever's reading your writing to tell that you haven't planned it at all and you've just gone and just written the first thing that's come to your mind. Because often your writing appears just messy, there's no logic to your argument, you can't develop your argument well, it's just a mess. So spend just a few minutes bullet pointing notes, don't write full sentences, just a few notes to keep you on track so that you can develop your argument well. Because if you don't, you're going to lose a ton of marks for organisation, for communicative achievement as well. It's going to have a very weak structure, and also your flow. It will not flow very well and it'll be difficult to read. I know you've only got 45 minutes to write, but just take a few of those minutes and it will make a massive difference to your writing. If you're struggling with writing, again, I've got another video up here for the essay. You can watch me write an essay and plan that essay in real time. That should help you as well. I've also got a few video courses about writing as well if you need some more in-depth help. I'll put those links in the description. Click there if you need them. In the meantime, we're going to carry on. So we're done with our mistakes. Now, the next thing I would advise you to do is to find your flaws when it comes to the C1 exam. How do you do that? Okay. We're going to take a look at one of my students that came to me a few years ago. They'd already failed the exam twice before they came to me. They'd had lessons every single week for over a year with a teacher, individual lessons as well. They said, oh, I used this textbook and we've done this, that and the other, and I'm still failing. Their main problems were he was translating from his native language into English, which was then messing up his sentence structure because he was using sentence structure from Spanish, which was his native language. And also his vocabulary. He was lacking a lot in vocabulary. He would repeat himself very often. And he would also use, again, kind of Spanglish or Spanish vocabulary when he was speaking in English. So what did we do to help him? Solutions were, first of all, we stopped cramming every single part of the exam because it wasn't necessary at all. You don't need, if you've got a really good mark in one part, you don't need to do that all the time. Practice it every so often, but it's a waste of time practicing something that you're already good at. Okay, so you don't need to cram every part of the exam. We did some systematic vocabulary building, as I said before. Vocabulary, massive part of C1. I was giving him flashcards every week, I was giving him readings every week, and I told him to keep his own vocabulary list and to then make flashcards from that as well. He was quite a systematic learner. He liked flashcards. Some people don't. They don't find it useful. But it really helped for him. And I was giving him reading, like I said. And that really helped him to see sentence structure. It helped him to see vocabulary in context. And the result was he passed his exam in the end, after 2 years of failing. Okay, so what you need to do, what you can learn from this is find what you're bad at in the exam and then fix it. Focus on that thing. How are you going to do that? Okay, number one thing I would tell you to do, take a practice test. There are free practice tests available on the Cambridge website. And then, of course, you'd have to mark that practice test. It might be difficult to mark your own writing and your own speaking to give you an overall, exam score. If you need that, feel free to send me an email. I'll put my email address here. Send me an email and I will send you a practice test and I will mark it for you so that you can get an overall score. Okay. So take a practice test. Once you've got your scores, then you can understand what your weaknesses are, if you need to improve listening, if your writing isn't so good, and then focus on building those skills. Leave your good skills, or maybe practice them once every so often, but put your main focus on what you're missing. And you'll get a lot better, a lot faster, and you'll be able to kind of even out your skills, basically. All right, moving on to the worst exam tasks. So these are the most difficult, let's say. Obviously, everyone will have, different things that they don't like about the exam, depending on your weaknesses and strengths. But these ones are the ones that everyone tends to hate the most, from what I've seen. So, reading part 6. This is a big one. This is your cross-text multiple matching, where you get 4 texts, and you only have 4 questions for this one. You need to kind of match opinions across texts. So you'll have, text 1 and text 2, and they'll have like a different opinion, or they'll have the same opinion, and you need to match them. Do not underestimate this task. Again, I've said this in a lecture before. I do have a lesson for part 6 reading. Again, I'll put that up there if you want to watch that. Save it for later. Do not underestimate this task. It's only 4 questions, but they're very difficult questions. They're 2 points per question. Very important, remember that. They're 2 points per question, and you have to reread the texts multiple times in order to answer the question, because again, you're looking for either similar opinions or different opinions across text, so you have to constantly reread them. It takes quite a long time, this task. If you divide the amount of time you've got by how many tasks you've only got 10 to 11 minutes per task, so you really need to get your timing right. And you need to do this task well, because it's worth a lot of points. It's worth 8 points. Okay. Another difficult thing about this task is the questions are not very explicit. This is when most people fall down here. They read the question and they think they know what it's asking, but they haven't read it carefully enough. And they don't know what they're actually looking for. They don't know what opinion they're looking for, because the questions are often worded in a kind of strange way. So you need to read those questions very carefully. Once you know exactly what you're searching for, then you go to the text and start searching for something similar or different, depending on the question. Again, if you're struggling with this part, watch that video up there, and that will give you a more in-depth tutorial on how to do it. So reading part 6, people often hate. Listening part 4, we've already spoken about this. Horrible task. This is where you've got 2 simultaneous tasks to do. So you've got 2 questions, 8 options per question. And you only get to listen twice to the audio. So you're having to do a lot of things at the same time. And this is where people make this big mistake of reading all of the options instead of listening. So as I said before, ignore the options first, listen, focus on the questions, make notes, and then match your notes to the options. The good thing about part 4 is it comes at the end of your exam, and you have 5 minutes after to transfer your questions from your listening paper to your answer sheet. So you can take one of those minutes to kind of match your answers across. So I would suggest doing this. Everyone I've suggested this to said it really helped. So definitely try doing this, and hopefully your score will go up a bit. Okay, another thing that I see quite a lot, like this is kind of a bit of a mistake really, but something I see students get confused about is the speaking exam, about kind of rules or like things that they've like made up or invented in their head that they think makes a difference to their grade, which doesn't. So we're just going to dispel some of these myths that people often think about of their speaking exam. Myth number 1, you need really rare, impressive vocabulary to pass. This is absolute rubbish. You do not. The main thing you need to do in your speaking exam is just not repeat the same vocabulary. Just have a range, like we said. You are marked. Remember, your speaking exam is not just about vocabulary. You've got vocabulary and grammar, which is your language point. You have organisation. How well does your speech flow? You've got communicative achievement. Can you communicate your ideas in a good way? Pronunciation. What are we missing? Interaction. Are you interacting with the other person in the exam well? So you have quite a lot of criteria there, not just vocab. Okay. So as long as you've got a few synonyms, or you can rephrase what you're saying so that you don't repeat yourself, great. For example, instead of saying I think over and over again, say I guess, I suppose, in my opinion, stuff like that. You don't need crazy, really rare vocab that nobody uses, okay? You need clear ideas, you need good control over your grammar and your vocabulary. You need to use natural vocabulary, and just don't repeat yourself. Okay. So don't worry too much. Myth number 2 is something I hear a lot of people say is that you're kind of competing with the other candidate in your exam. Again, you are not at all. Don't worry about the other candidate in your exam. They have nothing to do with your mark. For example, if they don't speak during part 3 or part 4 when you should be discussing, if they're barely speaking, that's their problem, not yours. You will not be marked down because the other person in the exam doesn't speak. As long as you're doing the task and you're trying to include them by asking them questions, or you're agreeing and disagreeing with them, you'll get a good mark. That's it. Don't worry about what they're, saying or not saying. As long as you're responding appropriately, then you're fine. Okay? You are marked individually. Remember that. Again, things you should be doing. Try to speak a bit slower. Again, this is something I see particularly in part 2 speaking, because you've only got a minute to do the task. Often people rush through because they try and say as much as they possibly can in that small amount of time. Chill out a bit. You don't have to go at super speed. Calm down. Chill out a little. I know it's nerve-wracking, but the faster you talk, the worse your fluency and accuracy will be. So just calm down a little, slow down, and your fluency and your accuracy will be a lot higher. Okay. Speak slower, like we said, include the other person, ask them questions, agree and disagree. Use synonyms, don't repeat yourself. Be natural, and it's fine. Right. Okay, on to writing. So we're done speaking, we're done reading, we're done mistakes. Now, writing. We have spoken about making a plan, so that's done. Let's take a look at the difference between a B2 and a C1 written task, like an essay. What's the main difference between? A B2 essay often reads quite repetitive. Okay, B2 students, often they don't have enough vocabulary to give like a range of structures or to paraphrase themselves. A C1 essay is different. It shows you need a wide range of vocabulary and you need to paraphrase yourself. You also need to use different grammar points, kind of a bit of complex grammar, but in a controlled way. There are about 5 different grammar points that you kind of need to show or understand at C1. If you don't know what they are, save this video for later. I've got a video there explaining. You don't have to go crazy with your grammar. If you can get like 1 inversion form in and maybe 1 cleft sentence in, then you're fine. Maybe a hypothetical, but it needs to be natural. Don't just try and like cram and crowbar as much grammar in because it reads really strange. Okay, couple of complex forms here and there and you're fine. It needs to flow naturally, your essay. You can do that using linking words. Okay, every time you introduce a new idea, every time you contrast an idea, use a linking word. And generally C1 essays, they're just smoother, they're easier to read because, again, the person writing has a lot more vocabulary. They know the way that sentence structures are made in English, and it just flows better. So that's the main difference between B2 and C1. All right, and finally, the thing that I get asked quite a lot when new students come to me is how long will this take? Or can I pass the exam in 3 months? That completely depends on you. It completely depends on, first of all, what level you're starting at. Are you a strong B2 level? Are you a weak B2 level? Are you on the border of B2 and C1? If you're a strong B2 level and you want to pass the exam at like grade C, the C1 exam at grade C, it'll probably take you about a year. And that's with regular practice. Like if you have regular lessons and if you study at home, it'll probably take you about a year. If you're a weak B2, it's going to take you 2 years. The amount of time completely depends on how much time you have to dedicate to studying and to practicing. If you just have 1 lesson a week and you do nothing other than like a bit of homework, you're not going to pass that exam. If you have a couple of lessons a week and you actually dedicate an hour or 2 of your time on top of that a week, studying, learning vocabulary, recapping grammar, or just reading, or even just watching TV, that can really help you, and you will pass the exam quicker. Okay. The main thing is self-study is absolutely essential. If you do not study yourself outside of your lessons, you're never going to pass that exam. It's that simple. Because it is a really hard exam. It's very tough. Now, the truth is, it is a very difficult exam. You can't really fake it until you make it. You need to put time and effort and consistency into it in order to pass. But my biggest advice for you is to just try and enjoy the process. Like, if you treat this exam and studying this exam like it's torture, then it will be torture and it will feel impossible. If you focus on improving your English, the exam becomes a result, not the goal. Like, you just enjoy it a bit more and in the end, you pass the exam. Okay, that would be my biggest advice to you. If you want some more realistic advice, vocabulary strategies, speaking tips, whatever, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If this video helped you, please do give it a like. Again, just helps it to get to more people so that they can prepare for their exam as well. And remember, C1 is not about perfection. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to have a bit more control, some range, and some confidence. If you do need any more help with your C1, if you want to take any lessons, I am available for lessons. You can go to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk and you can see my lessons there. I currently have a C1 group running if you would like to join that, or I'm available for individual lessons as well. Alright, so that's all from me. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in another video soon. Alright.